Isang magandang araw po muli sa inyong lahat mga kaibigan and welcome to another episode of your Legal Forum for this week. Sa araw po na ito, bibigyan daan natin ang concerns naman po ng asawa ng isang nagmamay-ari ng baril. Tingnan natin ang kwento nitong si Christy. Christy's husband happens to be a registered gun owner at madalas po siyang pumupunta sa shooting range kung saan siya nagbabaril. And it has been noticed over time that he is a dominant right-hand shooter. One day, an unfortunate accident happened where a person who is not in good terms with Christy's husband was shot by a masked man within a short distance. The victim pointed out that the shooter was a left-handed person. Despite the same, kinoconsider pa rin itong asawa ni Christy bilang isa sa mga suspects. The records would show that the gun used and the bullet recovered from the victim's body was from the same model of gun na pagmay-ari nga po ng kanyang asawa. Also, her husband was supposedly working late on a project alone when the said incident happened, kung kaya't wala pong ibang nakakita sa kanya. Christy believes, however, that these facts are merely coincidental at talaga naman pong inosente ang kanyang asawa. Kaya't nais ngayon malaman itong si Christy. Is it actually viable for her husband to be considered a suspect simply because the shooter and her husband own the same model of gun? Hindi daw po ba importanteng fact that the hand used to fire the gun is different at paano daw po ito makakatulong sa kaso ng kanyang asawa? And finally, ang alibi daw po ba ay talagang napakahinang depensa? We will know the answers to all of these questions right after this break. Balik po tayo sa ating programang Legal Forum, mga kaibigan. Kanina nga po pinag-uusapan natin ang concerns itong si Christy, and the following are the questions that have been raised. Is it still actually reasonable for the husband of Christy to become a suspect simply because the shooter and her husband own the same kind of gun? Hindi daw po ba napakahalagang impormasyon that the shooter rather, was noticed to be a left-handed person and yung asawa naman ni Christy is right-handed? Paano daw ito makakatulong sa kanyang kaso? And finally, would alibi really be considered a weak defense? Joining us once again, friends, to help us answer all of these questions is my very special guest for this week, Atty Atty Tabujara. Isang magandang araw muli sa iyo, Tiki.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so itong problem situation natin today is medyo more serious in the sense na somebody who owns a gun is now being suspected of having shot somebody na supposedly kaaway nga niya, no? Pero may mga terminologies lang din ako na gustong i-clarify kasi sabi sa facts, dominant right-hand shooter daw ang asawa nitong si Christy. So, pag inisip mo yung language na ginagamit, dominantly right-hand, posible din palang nagsushoot siya with the left hand. Are there a good number of shooters who are ambidextrous?
Yes, meron. People, yung tinatawag na ambidextrous, yung pwedeng gumamit ng right or left hand. Ngayon, pag sinabing dominant right hand, kadalasan, ginagamit yung right hand, pero pwede rin siyang gumamit ng left hand. In fact, anybody, including myself, can shoot with both hands. I mean, it's not a problem. So, hindi siguro sapat na sabihin na porke yung shooter left-handed, tapos yung asawa right-handed, yun yung hindi na siya na-identify nun. It's still possible.
Okay. Ano yung percentage of accuracy? Ito naman mga trivia na ito, no? But what is the percentage of accuracy that you can shoot your target if you're a right-handed person tapos ginamit mo yung left hand mo?
Okay, mas mahirap nga talaga. Pero as I said, it's still possible. Most people, ang paghawak kasi sa baril kasi, it's not really, does not require, no, yung talagang total coordination, no? You can still shoot from your left hand even if you cannot use your right hand or vice versa. Pero yung accuracy mo, siyempre mas mababa kaysa yung ginamit mo yung dominant hand mo.
Okay, what if, kasi nabanggit mo nga na it's not enough proof, no, that just because he is a dominantly right-handed person, he could not have shot this victim because the victim saw that the person used his left hand naman. What if they're able to prove that he has never shot a gun using his left hand?
Well, in that case, whether right or left hand siya, medyo sa prosecution aspect, no, it's what you call circumstantial evidence only, no. So medyo mahina yung evidence na yun. Yes, it's possible that we can argue na he never used his right hand, he never used his left hand, pero still the fact na yung right or left hand siya, it's still weak circumstantial evidence in favor of the prosecution. So maaring ma-acquit yung tao just on the basis of that.
Okay, dadagdagan ko lang yung facts, no, medyo i-complicate ko. Let's say a person is being accused of killing somebody because the person wanted to commit suicide, they were grappling for the gun, and then pumutok yung barel. What's interesting is the man who is now being accused of having killed this person is right-handed, and his pinky finger, doon lumusot yung barel. Yung bullet. Kasi siguro sinanggan niya or whatnot yung barel nung ginagamit ng tao, and for which reason, pagputok ng barel, lumusot sa pinky, tapos lumusot sa tao, lumusot sa chair, tapos pag ganon yung trajectory, yung parang nakaganon, ano? So supposedly suicide nga daw. Would that kind of a scenario negate any possibility that the firing of the gun was intentional or really, there was an intention to kill?
Yes, because normally when you shoot a gun with intention, diretso yung yung putok, no, and you use your strong hand, no, tsaka yung strong fingers mo. Kung yung pinky ang pinangbaril niya, it could be argued na there was an accident o nagkamali lang sa hila ng gatilyo, and iba rin yung trajectory ng bala, so it could be that it was an accident.
Hindi nga pinky ang pinambarel, lumusot yung bullet sa pinky. So, parang, yung gano'n, parang, ang hirap i-imagine na salagang pinatay niya tapos dito pa lumusot yung bullet. Anong kahalagahan nung lumusot yung bullet dito sa little finger pag ganong sitwasyon?
Pagka lumusot sa little finger, obviously hindi yun ang target niya. So there could have been a mistake, no, kung saan ang tama niya. And because if he really intended to shoot the gun, really diretso, maaaring sa ulo niya tinamaan, ano kaya sa katawan, di ba?
Okay. Talking about ballistics ba, Teki? Kasi I recall there was a time that during New Year's Eve ba yun, na may bata na namatay, parang may bumarel and then tumama sa ulo ng bata. Is there a way now to determine with 100% accuracy kung aling gun ang ginamit aling gun yung finire with that particular bullet that killed the child?
You're talking about the case of Stephanie Ella Nicole,
Yes.
doon sa Caloocan. And what happened there was that the child was shot, may bala na stray bullet tumama sa kanya, sa ulo niya ng New Year's Eve, no? December of 2012. Now, the PNP have acquired this new system, no, sa ballistic identification, which is known as the Integrated Ballistic Identification System, or IBIS, no, sa United States to galing, which is now with the PNP Crime Laboratory, which is capable of determining with accuracy the ballistic origin of a bullet, provided that they have to have a prior record nung ballistics nung mismong baril na bumaril ng bala. So what they're doing right now with all licensed guns is that they're requiring all licensed guns to be ballistically tested, pinapasok doon sa computer database nila to determine later on if the gun was used in a crime by means of the bullet pag ma-recover. There is also a contra-argument to this, no? Sa United States, marami rin nag-question dito sa sistema na to na it's not accurate daw. So there are two arguments. Hindi pa siya conclusive as evidence in court, but it's a step forward already in determining the ballistic origin of a bullet.
Okay. Dati kasi walang ganon, di ba? They don't require the bullets to be fired and then submitted. And I think that's very important for purposes of tracing kung nagamit nga ba itong isang baril na ito. Okay, so would the mere fact that the husband and the shooter owned the same kind or model of gun be already good evidence against the husband of Christy?
Well, again, it's circumstantial evidence, no? I don't think it's solid evidence, but could be part of the evidence to determine who is the owner of the gun, no? The mere model and make of the gun could be owned by so many other people, no? So maaring yung husband ng may-ari ng ganung klaseng baril, but other people could also be the owner of the same type of gun. So it's not conclusive, no? Maaring it can be used as identification purposes, but it's not conclusive enough to convict the husband.
Tsaka kung gusto mo talagang bumaril, ba't gamitin mo yung sarili mong baril?
Well, yes, yes and no, because karamihan sa statistics ng PNP, 99.9% of crimes using firearms in the Philippines are committed using firearms which are unlicensed or loose firearms. So yung mga licensed firearms, sa less than 1% lang ng mga krimen sa Pilipinas, which goes to show that the licensed gun owners are by and large responsible people.
Okay. So last question for the day. Kasi one of the things that binabash nitong kalaban ng asawa ni Christy is that alibi lang daw yung nandun daw siya nagtatrabaho sa isang project, mag-isa siya, wala namang ibang testigo, wala nakakita sa kanya, kaya't napakahina daw na depensa noon, kaya't in all likelihood, he is responsible for the crime. Is alibi really regarded a weak defense up to now? What if it's really true?
As a general rule, alibi is considered as a very weak defense, no? Because you not only have to establish that you were not at the scene of the crime at the time it was committed, but you have to establish the impossibility, no? By way of distance o kaya yung napakalayo na lugar na kung nasaan ka, in order for you not to be at the scene of the crime during its commission. Now, again, in an actual case, no, yung murder dun sa Mindoro dati, no, the defense of alibi was used, no, and it was upheld by the Court of Appeals because yung suspect nasa Mindoro, and then or he was in Manila, and then yung crime was committed in Mindoro. So yung distance na yun was considered more or less as a valid alibi.
Okay, so it's not just that he was not there, but the impossibility of being there. So kung talagang malayong-malayo, nag-attend ng kasalan, nasa Zamboanga, for example, imposible na siya yung gumawa nung nasa Manila.
And if I may add also, yung sa Webb case, di ba, meron din ganun, di ba, may alibi din si Webb na he was abroad, no?
Yes.
And I think the Supreme Court upheld it because may travel document siya, meron siyang mga immigration papers. So I think he was acquitted on that ground, on the ground of reasonable doubt.
Okay, so ayan na. Maraming talagang facets ang mga ganitong klaseng criminal cases. Thank you again so much, Tiki, for helping us out with our problem situation today. I will be seeing you tomorrow for our next batch of questions. Salamat.
Thank you.
And once again, friends, we would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Sana po may natutunan kayong bago patungkol sa ating batas para sa araw na ito. Until tomorrow then, for your Legal Forum, I'm Attorney Georgie Alonso.